Welcome everybody! Welcome back to a new reaction series that I didn't think I would start anytime soon, which is Vinland Saga Season 1, Episode 1. This reaction series was kind of born out of necessity. Actually, Girls Last Tour was a winner of the last poll that I did to replace the slot that Arcane had before we finished the series, and I was about to start this series, but the problem is on YouTube there is a couple of issues with Girls Last Tour regarding copyright and blockage and whatnot. So what I'm doing here, and that's kind of like the idea that I had in general. Welcome everybody who is new here as well. We do polls, we do anime reactions, we do gaming content whenever I'm able to actually do it. I want to start it back up Disco Elysium soon, for example, but also a couple of other things that I have in the works, at least. I plan to do them. But yeah, the idea was we're gonna do Vinland Saga here on YouTube. Season 1, only Season 1, mind you. Whoa, wait. Don't run away, okay? Don't run away. Come here. We're gonna do Season 1 for now, but that doesn't mean we're not gonna do Season 2. I just want to gauge how great, like how big the interest is in Vinland Saga in general, and if the interest is really great, if a lot of you are watching it and really enjoying it, then obviously we're gonna jump very quickly into Season 2 and make that a priority over potential other series that we could be starting. But for the moment we're gonna do Season 1, this is what I'm gonna commit to, and obviously with the big promise that I will be doing Season 2 eventually anyway, right? Either way, right? There's no way I'm not gonna do it. But it depends how large the audience actually is. Because obviously I want to stay at the pulse of time as well when it comes to popularity. Because it helps the channel stay on the radar. It helps people, new people to come in and old people to stay interested. So that I can continue reacting to series while receiving all of your support and your views and all of that. So I'm kind of trying to balance my own personal interest, which is I'm super interested in Vinland Saga, definitely. Namely also because a lot of people have been recommending it, a lot of people really appreciate it. There have been like comparisons to Berserk and whatnot. I don't know a lot about Vinland Saga, mind you. All I know is there's like this blonde protagonist and it's kind of like Viking era. And I do know it's kind of oftentimes the subtext I'm getting when people talk about it without discussing too many spoilers or anything. Like, I haven't been spoiled on it largely. I just know there's a lot of like political intrigue going on in the sense of like Game of Thrones-y kind of style. But also like I said, Berserk, that connection is often drawn because the manga of Berserk and the manga of Vinland Saga seem to have like certain themes that are kind of overlapping and vibes that kind of go in the same direction. So that is something that interests me a lot. Obviously, we can talk a lot about humans and psychology and society when we talk about betrayal and politics and generally just like communities and conflicts between them or cooperation between them. So yeah, I know there's multiple blonde protagonists, mind you. What a surprise! Viking show does have blonde protagonists. But yeah, but I know one of them is supposedly the main character, and we seem to be following his story. I think his name is Thorfinn, but it could be somebody else as well who's named Thorfinn. I know one character is named Thorfinn. But yeah, that is about most of what I know about Vinland Saga. This, like, aside from maybe some like very fragmented trailer footage when it originally aired as an anime, and I saw the trailer for it, I think. At least I vaguely remember that. But yeah. That being said, I think this is gonna be a really cool series. Like I said, we're gonna watch Vinland Saga here on YouTube on a like weekly or bi-weekly basis. Whenever I get to it, like oftentimes it's probably gonna be around like 10 days plus minus a couple of days. We'll have to see how YouTube reacts to this series as well, obviously, but it's, as far as I know, it's not Kadokawa, so hopefully this is gonna go well, and we're gonna be able to have that as a series while Girls Last Tour is airing on Patreon, by the way. So go check that out if you're interested in Girls Last Tour. We're gonna air it on Patreon. And when we got the YouTube stuff figured out, which is like, I will have to kind of edit a little bit something about Girls Last Tour, I guess, right? Like just change some of like the transparency and the audio and whatnot, and see how I can get it through to the system to at least be able to be watched by my main audience, which is the Western audience plus Japan, right? We do have USA, European countries, and then we have Japan, and those are my main like audiences. And if you do not belong to that group, maybe some of this, like the episodes are blocked in your territory and you might have to use a VPN or something, but I'll try to get it through so it airs in the main territories. And then if you're from another territory, I feel very sorry about that, but you're gonna have to figure it out, right? Or you're gonna have to go to Patreon and check it out there, because it is there, and it's only there, like it's only $1 or a little bit more than $1, but €1. So go check that out if you're interested. You'll get 1 week early access, or in this case, in the case of Girls Last Tour, probably multiple months early access, because I'm gonna record them and queue them up and put them on Patreon whenever I get them edited and ready, and then I'm gonna get them through the YouTube copyright system slowly. And when I got a couple of them on YouTube unlisted, right, then I'm gonna go and be like, okay, we're gonna start with episode 1, right? And then we queue them up so that there is little interruption from when I started on YouTube to when it's actually gonna be finished. But yeah, so Girls Last Tour, Vinland Saga. We obviously still have Monster going, but that is gonna be over soon. And I think I'm gonna leave myself a little bit more time to figure out what we're gonna do, right? So I'm probably gonna start a poll soon, maybe the end of May, and put that out and be like, okay, what's gonna follow after Monster? And you all can suggest things and whatnot, and you can like vote in the pre-poll if you're a patron, and then we're gonna go onto the main poll, which is like the public poll, and then we're gonna see what we're gonna watch after Monster, which is probably be one of an older series, right? Like a classic or something. So feel free to suggest series on that front as well. And yeah, so these are kind of the 3-ish series that we're gonna do for now: Monster, Vinland Saga, and Girls Last Tour on Patreon, right? We got a little bit of Rest of ReZero going. I want to finish up Spice and Wolf, right? These are like at least like Spice and Wolf's like side project where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna finish it soonish. But yeah, I probably gonna be releasing the next episodes of that only when I know that I have recorded everything and that I'm able to finish it, because I don't want to like put out an episode or like a double episode reaction and then you'll have to wait multiple months to get the next one. So I'll get them together and then I'm like, okay, here you go. So that is something to look forward to as well. And like I said, we do some gaming as well for anybody who is new. Disco Elysium, really cool, amazing political game with like a lot of satire in there, but also a cool detective story and a cool RPG to top that off. And the gameplay is really, really amazing. Obviously a lot of narrative focused, and we have Outer Wilds, which I do want to check out because I saw it on PinkCube's stream. Shout out to PinkCube. And it was pretty cool. It looked pretty cool. It was a game that is more vibes and exploration, and I love those too. So we're gonna check that out, maybe stream them a couple of times. And then we have some multiplayer gaming, maybe on streams going on. I've been playing Repo lately with a couple of like friends from a couple of Discord servers that I'm on, and I've been playing Helldivers with one person that I know via the Discord server as well. So maybe some of you want to join in. I don't know. If you're on Discord, reach out, right? Main thing I'm often like saying in the comments and whatnot, you can join my Discord. It's for free. The link is down in the description down below. Go check it out. You'll probably get infos more quickly. You don't have to log into Patreon because I do provide you with like links and whatnot to Patreon exclusive content for the people who have the patron role, obviously. And you get the news as quickly like as you can get them, basically, because most of the time, if I have quick updates or any plans that are changing, I'm posting them on Discord first, and then a couple of days or a week later they go on Patreon for all the patrons, so they know I'm not dead. And then at some point in time it might reach YouTube. I might say it in like in a random video or something, but yeah. Okay, let's get into this. I don't want to hold you too long. We're already like 12 minutes in, and I know the attention span these days is like 5 seconds, so I'm sorry for everybody we lost. We will miss you dearly. Here's how this is gonna go for anybody who's new here. We're gonna have a timer in the top that you can follow, right? In terms of like at what point in the episode we actually are. That's gonna run along. But also we're gonna have a sync up timer right before we sync, which is, well, in the beginning, like the first sync is gonna be the normal timer, right? We're gonna start with -3 seconds, and then we're gonna count down, and 0001 is gonna be the first frame of the episode, right? The first visible frame of the episode. No like like logos of companies or whatever. The first frame of the episode, and this is when we're gonna sync up. But oftentimes I skip the OP and whatnot, because that is often getting flagged on YouTube, and also like you don't want to sit through it every time, so I'm gonna skip that. And we have a second resync after the OP. Gonna have like a tiny little timer underneath the main timer here, where it's like, okay, couple of seconds till the resync, and then it's gonna sync up, and we're gonna go on. And whenever I pause within the episode, which is most of the time 1 or 2 times within one episode, at most it's gonna be 3 times. Like I don't think I've ever paused more than 3 times within a single episode. You're gonna get a warning, and you're gonna see that there's a pause coming and whatnot. And yeah, at the end of it, we talk about it, we have a discussion. Most of the time it's like 20 minutes or 30 minutes, right? Depending on what we have to talk about. We focus on narrative elements, we look at psychology of characters, we're gonna look at how do we feel, like how would we feel in this character's shoes, but we're also gonna look at the art, which I personally really love and gotten to love over the years, which is like just cinematography in the sense of like what shots are we taking, and why is this such an effective, cool looking shot, or what do we try to express with this frame, right? Stuff like that, which kind of I'm not as versed in as somebody who is studying film, for example, but I have some like passive knowledge that I acquired across the years with like media literacy, especially regarding anime, but other series as well. And plus the experience I got through friends who are doing cinematography or design as an actual university subject. So there's a lot of cool stuff that we can look into, that we can analyze, that we can go into, like animation and stuff, because it's really cool to see how these things are animated and why a frame is so incredibly cool, why a movement looks so satisfying, right? Stuff like that is really, really cool, but I do that occasionally, right? Well, like sometimes like I don't do that for 4 episodes, and then suddenly it's like, oh, this very prominent episode that has so much cool animation, let's look into that. And then sometimes we also look at stuff like voice actors and animators that are like involved in the special scene. Although I haven't done that in a long time, I would love to do that again with like Sakuga Boro or whatever. Look into that and just see what animator is actually responsible for it, and why is that such a cool thing and whatnot. And if you want to go the extra mile, support what I'm doing, maybe kind of incentivize me to keep doing it, because I've only been doing that since end of 2023. It's been a great journey, don't get me wrong, and it's been helping me a lot personally to more consistently watch anime and more consistently play games, because that was a problem I had in the past, where I like was starting great anime series and then never finished them because there was more important stuff in life. Now that this is kind of like a side hustle for me, it's an extra incentive to actually go out there, record these episodes, share them with you, right? Join into that community interaction and discussion, and also maybe build myself something on the side where I can be doing these things on a more professional level. So if you want to support that, go join my Patreon, go check that out. You're always welcome there. and there's a couple of benefits like early access and like more like less cut content basically, and like a little bit less like transparency on the episodes as well when it comes to the visual display. Although I never go with just like 100% footage. I don't want to one-to-one replicate that. I don't think that's okay. So there we go, right? It's a little bit of a rundown. We're gonna get started with Vinland Saga. I'm gonna be really curious what it's all about on like its essentials. Like I know the themes, like I said, but there's gonna be a very interesting beginning phase where I'm probably gonna try and soak it all in and kind of find out where are we going with this journey. Yeah, come along on this journey. I'm sure all of you or most of you have watched it already. If you haven't, I do encourage you, go check it out on the official sources. Go buy the DVD or the Blu-ray. Go check it out on your local streaming services if you can. Obviously, I know a couple of countries can't, and in that case, just get it where you can, right? But definitely go support the creators. The studios do need your help, and the animation industry is understaffed and underpaid anyway, so go support them in any way you deem appropriate, and you in any way that can be affordable to you. So all right, with that out of the way, holy shit, so much hair. I was thinking about maybe getting like an undercut or trimming it down a little bit, because it has been a little bit annoying, and it's getting how do I say that? It's getting a little bit obnoxious, especially in summer with like the temperatures, but we'll see how we go. Okay. Vinland Saga episode 1 starts in a 3, a 2, a 1, a go. Ooh. Okay. Lying in the cornfield, not the cornfield probably, it's probably wheat. What a landscape. Ooh. I really like the art style. Thors and Helga. Ooh. Oh, that is a transition and a half. We are starting with straight up baller animation. Okay, this is amazing. Ooh. Okay, so we're not ultra realistic, I guess, but 987 AD. I have no idea what that is. Like the place. Lost focus, huh? Thinking about home. Torkel. Blockade Floki, okay. He got a plan, he's a plan maker. Alright, okay. Alright. He's just ripping through them. Interesting cut. Ooh, and the snow is... Oh, not, it's not snow, it's even, what do you call it? Ooh. He almost didn't react to that. That is insane. Got the sword. I wonder how that feels, stabbing underwater. There has to be a lot more resistance than, like, than above water, right? Because the water has to... It has to part way to the sword. Ooh, that needs to be symbolism, right? That's foreshadowing. How the sword slowly sinks. But for what, I have no idea. I mean, it doesn't just have to be foreshadowing. This is so gorgeous. Ooh, and this is almost, it looks like a painting far away. I like that. Like the front is still very much lively, but the back is almost like an oil painting. Title card. Are we gonna have an OP first? Ooh. First episode. Sink or swim. What went wrong? Wait. Oh, okay, so we have like English, Japanese mix of lyrics. Sold my soul. Oh yeah, that's the main character, right? No matter how picturesque it was, I never felt anything. I was only longing for the scenery. And we pull up him, right? So he's the father, I guess? Or like, kind of parent. Ooh. I do wonder if that has spoilers, if I should avoid that, but... I don't know. Oh, this one, I've seen this guy too. Ooh. Interesting title card. We have like almost like saber fate shot, right? With like the swords everywhere and they standing on the hill. Although that's like a classic Japanese motif anyway. Somewhere not here. Ooh. What is that? Greenland? Iceland? Something along those lines. Probably not Iceland because I mean Iceland has snow too, right? It's not like it doesn't. But Greenland is the one that has more snow. It's colder. It is Iceland. 1000 something AD, right? Shortly after 1000. Mom? Thorfinn. Helping out at that age. I mean, this is how it was, right? Almost seems very, like, this show seems so calm and wistful. Like a forgotten dream. Very interesting scene. Tales of heroics. And obviously he is absolutely, like... This is the story that you live for as a kid, right? The new continent. Ooh, this reminds me so much of like Made in Abyss with like season 2, adventure spirit. Vinland. Roll credits. Leif Erikson. I heard that name before. Much warmer. Europe? Or is it more the other direction? I think it's Europe, right? If I know my... Ooh, no! What do you mean? What do you mean? Wait, you mean America? Interesting. I mean, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Vikings could have come from, like, from Europe, yeah, right? I don't know the history that well.
レイフさんのお話を聞かせてあげたくて。真の戦士か。やっぱおっちゃんはすごいな。だろう。いい子だトルフィン。大きくなったらわしの船に乗るか。
Recruiting them young.
今って。でも変だよレイフさん。だってじいちゃんが言ってたもん。西にはヨルムンガンドがいて近づく船をみんな食べちゃうんだ。なんでその先は何にもないんだ。だからそうだからこそわしの偉さがわかるんだ。ほらほら。
Nordic legends.
真の戦士の。だいたいレイフさん戦士じゃないじゃん。ああ、わかっとらんな。戦働きだけが戦士ではないぞ。船乗りは海と戦っとる。すごいんだぞ。
So he's a sailor.
やっぱね。ね。なんじゃい。みんな言ってるよ。おっちゃんはひげ生えた子供だって。冒険ばっかで戦の役に立たないって。へん、周りに流されおってトルフィンは信じるよな。すると何か戦にも行かない冒険おじさんの言うことなぞ信用できってか。だって僕の父上が戦士って言うんなら本当だけど。ホールズ、こいつらバカにするんじゃ。ビシッと言ってやってくれ。さあ、今日はお開きだ。あれ、みんなを送ってやってくれ。はい、ホールズさん。
I guess they all belong kind of to a village or like a region. Ooh. What happened to you? Prisoner of war or something? Harbinger of... Vinland, yeah. Mm.
ご苦労様。弱ってるのはこの2頭だけだったよ。おお、寒かったな、ユルバちゃん。おじさんが温めてあげよう。スケベ親父。母上、もう寝なよ。また風邪ひくよ。大丈夫よ。羊をつなぐから手伝って。
Dude, I love these haircuts. They are amazing.
ここも大変みたいだな。まあね。いずれ誰も越せぬような冬が来るかもしれん。わしの国では今弟が移住の計画を立てている。
To better pastures.
なーに。わしは往復してきたさ。
The round trip. Are we playing? Oh, he's streaming, right? What do you mean? We're not in One Piece! He's getting... yeah. Oh, Neson. Serious discussions, huh?
心配事は大人の仕事なんだから。それよかおいで。姉上が抱っこしてあげる。
Yeah, it's kind of a village.
ああ、もう。ねえ、父上。どうしてうちは奴隷を買わないの？
Ooh, okay.
上は体弱いんだし、私が手伝わないと。よそはよそだ。毎年聞くな。
That's not what we do, huh? But it is a common practice. The snow softened the blow. What? Wait, is it the guy? Ooh. Might be one of the slaves you were talking about, huh? Hmm. Ooh, we have like in-between title cards. That reminds me of some other series. It was like, cut the bullshit. I don't think he would be. Yeah, you're too young. Hmm. Okay. So at least he's not just spouting adventurous tales, he's also saying, hey, look. Survived it, but by luck. I mean, as a kid, you don't realize these things, right? Where did he come from originally? Yeah. Yeah, he's gotta have so much frostbite. Hmm. East, right? Norway. Okay, this is where we come from. Conquest. Mm. Subservience or exile. Refugees. Alright. Ah, kid. Sometimes it's clever to run away and bide your time.
よその奴隷だよ。逃げてきたんだ。生き返った。
おい、あんた、名を言えるか。
寒い。
火だ。色はもっと強く。
はい。
あんた、どこから来たんだ。
俺は連れ戻されるのか。
Yeah.
ハーフダン様のお屋敷に。
ハーフダン。やっ
Often.
ぱり山の向こうから。
But they know him, okay.
嫌だ。嫌だ。でもどこにも行くあてなんか。
I love the shadow work.
トールズ、来てくれ。ハーフ団が港に。連中また何か難癖つけに来たんだ。あんたじゃないと相手できん。奴ら奴隷がどうとか言って強引に上陸しやがった。レイフさんが間に入ってくれてるが、今にも若衆と追っ始まりそうなんだ。とにかく来てくれ。
People with a different way of life.
人間に似合う唯一の首飾りだ。金でも銀でもねえ。鉄の鎖だ。首につないだ鎖だけが人間ってやつを少しはマシにしてくれる。そう思わんか。
Alright, bro.
昨夜、俺の奴隷が一匹鎖を断ち切って逃げた。心当たりはあるか。
因縁つけてんじゃねえぞ。どうせこないだの剣を蒸し返そうってんだろ。奴らとは何度も揉めてて、こないだ
Bro's like, I fight you all. Come at me, bro.
てめえは見覚えがあるぜ。あの喧嘩でてめえには左腕を切られた。
そっちこそよくも兄貴の足を切り落としやがったな。よさんか。あれ兄貴はもう二度と歩けねえ。野郎の足もぶった切ってやる。
おお、来いや。法律も民会も犬のクソで。ハーフダンさん。つなぐぞ、貴様。
Alright. He has supernatural chain powers, apparently.
法を軽んじる者は許さん。法は鎖だ。ゲドウどもはつながれて初めて人間の一員になる。
Oh, okay. That's kind of like... We can talk about this. But they're like... This is not their way of life.
心当たりはあるか。
Right, how is Thor's gonna handle this?
どこだ。こんなに安らかな気持ちは初めてだ。
しっかりしろ。おい、あんた。
He's close to dying.
死ぬぞ。
トールズ。
おやじ。おふくろ。姉さんも。みんな、ここにいたのか。
He's got one foot in the grave.
バラバラに売られたから。ここはどこなんだ。なぜ俺は。
I gotta love the art direction. Like the very subtle vibration.
ヴィンランドという名の土地がある。そこは暖かく豊かで、奴隷商人も戦の炎も届かぬ。
As of now, at least.
どうだ。いつか俺たちと一緒にその地で暮らさないか。
フィンランド。
And what his father says must be true, right?
ここはヴィンランドというのか。
Almost like paradise.
見つけたぞ。武
作法は許せよ、トールズ。俺はその奴隷の正当な所有者だ。返してもらおう。
父上。
おいで、トルフィン。
ハーフダンさん。ですね、かくまったんじゃないんですよ。あなたの奴隷が死にそうなとこを助けたわけでして。
ハーフダン、この男いくらで買った？
父上、そんなこと聞いちゃ失礼よ。
羊2頭、若いメスだ。
3頭やる。俺が買おう。どうだ、ハーフダン。
そいつは連れて帰る。他の奴隷の前で見せしめに拷問せにゃならん。
ならば。
Ooh, he's big.
てめえ、ハーフダンさんの言ったことがわからねえ。
黙れ。
This is a negotiation.
その倍といえば。
だそう。すべて3歳以下のメスでな。
くたばり損ないに羊8頭とはな。いい取引だぜ。
嘘。商談成立。
トールズ、それでそいつの鎖を解いてやったつもりか。それでそいつをどこへ連れて行く？羊はこちらで選ばせてもらうぞ。
Whose principles won out? I think Thor's. Big sacrifice.
姉上、悲しいの？
悲しいわよ。羊8頭もしたのにあっという間に死んじゃったのよ。
父上、僕らも逃げてきたの。レイフのおっちゃんが、ご先祖様は東から逃げてきたって。逃げてここに来たって。
ああ、そう伝えられている。
Oh, he wasn't there for it. It was generations ago, maybe.
じゃあ。じゃあ。
Oh, the music.
誰も逃げたい人がどこに行くの？
Vinland? Who are you? And what does that dagger mean? Or was that a sword? I wasn't quite... Ooh. The sun is rising. Passion and kindness. And we go into picture... Oh, holy shit. It's like manga panel, picture book style. This is cool. Sailing the seas, and the birds as a symbol to freedom, right? Uncharted worlds. Holy shit. The scenery? That was important. Ooh, but the stormy sea and the fire burning. And it engulfs everything in the frame. Ooh, cool, cool, cool. I don't know if I do, like, if I'll do that as, like, a separate... Yeah, we're done. If I'll do that as a separate, like, OPED reaction, I don't know if it's long enough for that. Maybe I'll record something additionally and add that to it. It's definitely gonna make it into the Patreon version for sure. But I don't know if I'll split it on YouTube for strategic reasons. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Oh, with studio and production IG. I love that. Wit is a really good studio. I loved the first, like, now I know why it feels like Attack on Titan. Holy shit. Of course. Like, even the style feels, I mean, obviously everything has its own art style, and I did see in various, like cultural osmosis, basically, on the manga side, that Vinland's manga looks a lot like the anime as well, but Wit was always really good at translating a certain art style and vibe of a manga into an actual series. That is one thing that I, for example, did heavily prefer when it comes to Wit Studio, as opposed to MAPPA, which did the later Attack on Titan seasons. Don't get me wrong, they were great, right? I just wasn't as happy with the use of CGI partially, right? Like, some of it was really cool. I was like, oh, okay, right? And obviously it was a giant production, so there had to be some pace to it, and CGI makes it a lot easier. But Wit Studio always had this dreamy kind of painting-esque art style, and it lends itself very well to certain series. And I do see where both the Attack on Titan vibes that I've been getting here come from, as well as where the vibes of Berserk actually come from, because especially the 1998, I think, Berserk series, right? That one also had kind of like a very dreamy aesthetic, although the colors were more washed than than Vinland Saga here seems to have. But sorry. One thing I really appreciate and I really like is how the direction, in combination with the music and the scenery and what we're trying to represent in terms of the themes, seems to suggest to us as the audience that there is so much depth to the series without even so far getting into the deep parts of it, right? We've just been introduced to this universe, to this show, to the themes of it, and we're already, not only in the OP and the ED, but also in the main part of the episode, having these shots that give you that feeling of, on the one hand, this longing for adventure, right? For new horizons, for discovering the beauty out there that is untouched by man, but also for the deep emotional themes beyond that, right? Beyond like motivation and passion for exploring, that are being prepared here, as well as like the contrast of freedom versus slavery, fighting versus running away. It's already visible here, so I really love that. So let's take it back a notch and see where we can go in on this and discuss it a little bit. Let me just this is right. I think going well. Right, nice. Let it get on the screen here, right? And we are starting in a wheat field, and this reminds me of multiple things. One of them is Spice and Wolf, but more on like the periphery. It's not going in the same direction. We do have wheat fields, obviously, and wheat is a very important thing in Spice and Wolf, especially with the medieval culture and that. But this goes farther back, right? But what I am thinking of in that specific scenario is Gladiator, right? I'm thinking of Gladiator, because this is literally what we have as the shot of Gladiator, which is our main character going through the wheat fields, slowly feeling it with his hand as he's making his way to his home, to his estate. Short spoilers for Gladiator, the movie, the first one. And it's kind of a death scene, right? Like a foreshadowing death scene, right? At death's door, basically. Dreaming of that world beyond where people are that you miss, right? That are already dead. It's very interesting how the first shot of the series, we do have Thor's possibly foreshadowing his own death. Right? He's lying in the wheat field. He's slowly opening his eyes to it. It's like almost a dreamlike world, right? And the next shot we do have is like across the land, and it's bountiful and it's beautiful, and it's different from Iceland, right? Because Iceland, at least the winters, are cold and snowy, and Greenland as well, even more so, right? And here in the first episode, we even have that tale that is being told about Vinland, which I can only assume is America based on just like the evidence that we have, right? Like Native Americans, basically the typical stereotypical Native American being shown, and just like a land across the sea. It's warmer than it's here, right? Like there's a lot of like evidence for that, and it's not Europe because we came from Norway, right? Like our people, right, fled Norway when it was conquered by the first king of Norway. I'm not as familiar with the Norway lore, so Sal, shout out to Sal. You're living up there in Scandinavia. Do let me know what, like, you probably know more than me. I know you're, I think from Finland, but still, come on, you need to know that. You probably know that. Either way, I guess really interesting, really cool. But he's looking across this like almost paradise landscape. We have him like being in a dream, and a couple of like, oh sorry, still got the gotta mute that. Yeah, I mean I'm gonna mute that anyway. Post edit. The wind slowly flowing through his hair, and then something snaps him back to reality. Right? He has like this visual, this dream that he's in, maybe for just a second, like a daydream that's coming to you, where you focus your attention is inwards. It's almost like he's looking death into the eyes, and he's like seeing his death arriving, right? And you have like the Thorfinn, and I guess that's his wife, I'm not sure, right? With the baby in hand, which is at this point in time, not Thorfinn, Thor's, right? And Thorfinn is the son, and this, like the baby here in her arms is either her Ylva, his daughter, or it's Thorfinn, the son, and she's waving. I guess he's dreaming of home in this moment, but the parallels to death are there, and the parallels to the Gladiator opening. And he's taking a step, and suddenly, I guess his foot bumps onto one of the bodies, and he looks down, and there's blood everywhere. And he's like, oh shit, I'm back, right? Like, it's almost like all of this happens in the snap of like a couple of seconds, where he thinks back home. And like the Thorfinn, right? Not the Thorfinn, the Thors, right? With the waving, could be at the same time him hearing his wife in his daydream, but also him hearing the voice of this guy, whoever he is, the blonde dude, shouting to him and shouting his name to him. And then we snap back and we see we're being attacked, and we like, I mean, they knew what they were doing when they were like, okay, we need to have a really amazing scene with like animation wise when we go into this. And this is probably CG too, it looks CG. But it's different, right? Like, which studio does CG differently than MAPPA or other studios like Ufotable? So there is a distinct, unique style to it, I feel. And here we go into standard drawing again, right? Obviously, we're probably also using rotoscoping a little bit here and there, which is like a very popular technique of animation modeling. I mean, I don't know it from the top of my head, but I know how it generally works, and it's a really cool way to do it. Holy shit! Into the neck, and right. And we show from the beginning on, this is going to be a bloody show. It's going to have varied themes, right? Themes of dreams and passions and wishes and emotions, but also themes of war and cruelty and action. This guy is a little bit crazy, I ain't gonna lie. This guy is probably a little bit crazy. He looks like it. Okay, that. I mean, I skipped that a little bit, but I don't... He jumps from ship to ship. we have so many cool frames, right? Like the over the shoulder, we see the hand and the sword comes swinging in, and then we like not even like we don't even rotate, we just zoom out basically and show the next movement. And the next movement is not like the immediate next movement that would happen in real time, but more like a skip forward to empathize how fast and swift his strike is. And he just gets cut in half, so I'm like, okay, this is not what naturally happens. You need some time to cut through flesh, so we are not hyper-realistic, but we are, like, grounded enough, right? We're grounded, that's what it tells me, the scene. We're grounded, but we go a little bit over the top when it comes to action and, like cruelty, maybe, and other stuff, so... For effect, but that's the cool thing about movies, and especially, like, animated works, that we can do that, because it's a way to impress. Zoom out and we have let me try to pronounce that. Hjörungavar. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it, but I would pronounce it Hjörungavar. The R is probably silent. Not sure. I'm not Nordic. I'm German, okay? Look. 987? 80? I'm an idiot. I should have not skipped that. Yeah, 87. Okay. Whatever that is, right? I don't know the scene. I need to look that up at some point in time. Why were you just standing there? I dozed off in the middle of battle. And we have, how is this? Floki, which is our enemy, supposedly. I don't know if that's like just raids that are happening, or if this is one of the conflicts of like before they left Norway, but I don't think it is, because later on Thor's is like, yeah, so it is said, which means like he himself wasn't present when his people basically ran away, but rather maybe it was his father or his grandfather that fled to Iceland, and he is like second or third generation of living there, right? Or maybe he was young when it happened. Thorkel, that is his name. Thorkel and Floki. Thorkel is on our side at the moment. Don't know, right? Like, Floki is on the opposite side. Okay. I don't know who belongs to, but I'll try to remember some of these names. Either way, like, Thors is a very strategic person, but also a very like man of action, basically. We do have... He's looking at things and he's like, well, we're gonna have trouble if they attack us full front, so here's what I'm gonna do, right? And just to get like the better just to get back to this, I love these rotation shots, by the way. This is always really cool when you have like a sword fight starting a certain way and then we rotate and see like how people are coming up behind him and he's meeting that, right? That's really cool. Holy shit. Insane. Okay, let's look up the... Also, he's just taking this dude by one arm. Holy fuck. You know how heavy that is? We're too spread out. We won't be able to hold off their second wave, right? Bring up the front line when he approaches, right? Meet them head on. What about you? I'm going to stop the enemy. He's like not explaining, right? He doesn't share. He's like, I can do this myself. And he's a superstar, right? He's a superhero, basically. And he's like, I see you, nimble. So the two of them are not as connected. They might be on the same side, but maybe they're from different factions and they just joined forces due to circumstances. So he doesn't know Thor's full capabilities. Very interesting. Maybe for later like relationship and stuff, and being able to assess a certain situation. But yeah, he's just going for it. He's just mowing through these red shirts, basically. And he's getting like, he's taking this guy out, and then I don't know how that's called. Let me know how that's called in English, right? In German, it's called Hagel, which is when like raindrops are freezing while they fall down, and then they come down as ice. But yeah, he gets, and we have like that moment where it's like very emotional. He's like thinking about his wife probably. He's like, Maria, I'm sorry I couldn't return, right? I'm dying here, I realize that. He's looking down on it. Very stoic, right? Oftentimes we have that in fiction, very stoic characters, but you do see that below the surface this is hitting him. And we see that later on in the scene where he saves the slave's life because he really cares about it. He could have just been like, okay, he's dead anyway, right? Like the sister. And I'll have something to say about the sister later on. I don't have that harsh feelings for her attitude because of various reasons, but we'll talk about that later. Cool haircut, by the way, dude. But yeah, he just gets the arrow in, and I'm like, did it get stuck in the armor? No, I don't think so, right? Like, it actually gets stuck, so it has to have penetrated him to some degree. Pause. So he's just toughing it out. Like, it doesn't affect him that much. And it doesn't seem to be too deep, probably because of like the chain shirt he's got on, so very interesting. He actually had the sword thrown out of his hand. I do feel like this maybe happened because of the arrows being stuck in there and him being unable to use his full like strength and capabilities in that moment. But he is adaptive and he's doing it, right? Struggle underwater, and like I said, it must be really hard to put the sword into somebody's chest while you're underwater because you have all of that water resistance. And then we have the sword being left here. Maybe almost symbolic that he leaves war, basically, and we see him next time when we see him, he's just a settler, right? Who is not in favor of violence. But yeah, the sword hits the ground. You could interpret a lot of stuff into that, right? The sword being forgotten, sinking to the bottom of the ocean, as in like dying, parting ways, as in, yeah, a lot of things, right? Things being lost in war. But yeah, and he's he's moving away from this war, from this conflict, supposedly, right after this scene. So everything is burning here. And the imagery is insane. Look at that. That's a painting. I mean, I say that often, but like, that's a painting. But yeah, really, really cool stuff. We can go through some of the OP here. Alright, let me see. To sink or swim in order to survive, right? And the next one is, they've always said it's a dog-eat-dog world. And it's the world we're setting up here. I think really cool how it's half raining, half snowing as we crash across the waves and as we sing this, right? Like, sink or swim, dog-eat-dog world, right? What went wrong? If it's the world that our wisdom will lead, well, tell me what went wrong. What went wrong? And we see war, we see conflict, well, we see some of our characters. I've paid my dues, right? I've paid the price for whatever it is, right? I've sold my soul, right? I've done something, right? Sold my soul means I've basically agreed to do something bad in order to gain favor for something, right? To gain something from it. That can be betrayal, it can be like, yeah, I don't know. It can be mistakes that we make, people that we join, deals that we strike that come to bite us in the back, right? Sold my soul, basically. So much conflict, so much fire. So tell me what is left for me, right? And I guess this is a theme that we probably... Oh, there's Thorkel. That we probably will have to deal with in the long run, right? Once the war is done, once the conflict is over, even if I win, or even if I survive, right? One of the two. Or maybe I should say, even if I survive, or even if I win. Because that is like the better outcome, winning. What is left? Who did I lose, right? What did I lose? And what's my reason for existing after the war? because oftentimes you get lost so much in this conflict, right? And this is all that matters because it's a fight for survival, it's a fight for ideals, it's a fight against something or right, to protect something. And then what's left when you leave that battlefield, broken and battered, and everything burned to the ground, a wasteland basically. So I do assume we might be going into themes like this. Very interesting too how we have like him here braving a snowstorm. Could be like symbolic for braving a storm in general. What was I envisioning? I never felt that's interesting. I never felt anything. You see, even if I reassess my outlook, we do have somebody who looks like Thorkel and somebody who looks like Thorfinn older fighting. But might be somebody else, to be fair. I was only longing for that scenery, and as is Thorfinn coming in, running to the village and seeing his sister and his father and his mother just standing at the house here, greeting him when he comes back. And we see them standing over a grave, which almost seems like it's the grave of like that slave in the first episode, with the northern lights behind them. I don't know exactly how northern lights are used in symbolism in shows, so this will be an interesting thing to try and interpret that on the long run. No matter how picturesque it was, I never felt anything. You see, even if I reassessed my outlook, I was only longing for that scenery. And that scenery is home and family, but also in the second iteration here, Vinland maybe, right? Like the promised land basically. And now we're going through the time like the time lapse. I'm probably emotionless. Is this world so far torn from the truth? Is that the King of Norway? And this guy, we've seen him sailing ominously in the first episode. Is this world so far torn from the truth, right? Does this world even make sense, right? Are we just lying to ourselves? There could be a lot of interpretations into that. To maintain a balance between good and evil, right? Is there a balance, or does evil prevail? Does it even matter? What even is good and what is evil? Is it just kill or be killed? Is it might of the right? Is it might? No, what might makes right, or is it not? Oh, that is Thorkel for sure. And who are you? You look interesting, right? Like with the helmet and like almost like Valkyrie style. Is this world so simplistic, right? Is this all there is to it, right? Could somebody please try and okay. Fucking tell me. Alright. And he's like screaming to the night sky basically. And this reminds me like Bonfire Dreams shit. But yeah. This reminds me heavily of Bonfire Dreams, but yeah. Somewhere not here. Which we later on we see is I think Iceland, right? Because this is where Thorfinn is right now. Getting the water from the river. Yeah, and the cliffs. 1002 AD, so it is with 87, we do have 15 years later. And Thorfinn is not 15, so the baby Thors is seeing in his like little daydream during the conflict is definitely Ylva, I think. And that's her. I thought she was the mom at first, but no. And we have a little bit of like comedy, which is like basically like the brat, right? The little boy's like, screw you, right? Why do I have to do this shit? And we have a similar attitude of like Ylva later, which is more outspoken about this, while Thorfinn is more like, I know I have and want to do my duty and do my part, basically. Help the family. But he has dreams and a longing for the seas. that is being ignited and awakened in the dark and stormy nights when everybody is huddling around the campfire. You really feel that scene, right? Like, it's cold outside, winter, right? Like, everything is icy and you're huddling around the campfire and maybe with a hot soup or something, and then you get stories, like, only in the evening and in the nights the stories are being told about adventures far away. And that's like when the boys and the girls of the village are all sitting there and being like, listening to the bard basically telling stories, or the sailor telling stories. Right. And then we found it. Like storm and everything. And I said this reminds me of Made in Abyss, so like the first small little vague spoilers, the first scene of season 2, episode 1, where we do see like this arrival in a new unexplored land, right? Where we tread ground that supposedly or possibly nobody of our own communities have ever seen. There's something really fascinating and alluring about that, right? And I think it comes down to human curiosity, right? Like our desire to learn new things, to make new experiences. And that is that on steroids, right? Because it's seeking new horizons. It's finding a land that we can settle in that is new and interesting in the beginning, almost like a relationship. And later on, it is warm and comforting and relaxing and secure, right? Because we made it so. And there's also the sense of accomplishment in there, right? Of going to somewhere, right? Finding something and exploring something and building a home and all of these things that are kind of almost inherent to our own instincts, because they are what brought the species forward in the past, right? Like colonizing the entire planet, basically. Finding all kinds of environments to survive in, to exist in. Some of them better than others for us, but to some of them we adapted, and sometimes we went somewhere else so we could find something that we are already more adapted to, or that is more favorable for us. A new world, right? Ripe fruit and rippling plains. We gave it a name. Vinland. And he is like a little bit like that uncle who is like telling crazy stories and stuff. Grass growing everywhere, and we have the natives. Only true warriors can wear it. He's not a warrior, he's a sailor and explorer, but still, right? That's a warrior too in some sense, not a hardened soldier. And he's Leif Erikson. I heard that name before. I think he's like an actual character, but I might be wrong, right? Like an actual historic character, but I might be wrong. And he's like, he wants to sail with you now. He wants to explore now. He wants everything now. Let me tell a little bit something about Nordic story. Jörmungand prowls the seas to the west and gobbles up every ship that ventures too close to the edge, right? And then you have the waterfall falling down. That's the sea snake, right? Or is that the sea? Like, I don't know. I know there's like a serpent gnawing at Yggdrasil, at the roots of Yggdrasil and kind of poisoning it from down there. But I don't know Norse mythology enough to actually be secure in that. But I do actually have a book over here. It's like Tales of Norse mythology, and I might be able to actually pick them up and look a little bit something up here and there and see if I can like identify cool like mythological parts of that. So there's that. I never read it completely, but I read stuff here and there, right? And we established kind of, by the way, like I haven't said a lot about how the shots are built up, but they are excellent. But look at that shot, right? Like him in the frame, like on the side. Very interesting because we don't like the weight of everybody and everything that is in the frame is actually put to one of the sides. And then we do have the characters that are in focus, which is Leif and Thorfinn, to the front and well visible with a lot of details, and with a little bit less detail, the rest of the children, and we look down upon them. They're just like, Leif is an authority figure to some degree, but not completely, right? The other adults are all standing. But he's the storyteller, he has the focus, he is in control of the situation by telling that story, and like, right? So there is this dynamic going on, and just a simple directional choice of how we build up the shot is able to bring that across to us as the audience, which is really cool. And we have a lot of shots like that, right? Like comedic shots too, where he's going like suddenly the snap cut over 180, and then he's like pointing at Thor's to the back, right? And we still have Thorfinn and him in the frame at the forefront, and Thor's is the focus of being pointed at me, like, oh, come on, tell them, right? Tell them not to mock me. And he's like almost in the middle of the frame, basically as the center object that we're referring to here. Cool shot from the ceiling as well, right? To round out the scene and give us a really, really good idea about how every part of the environment is looking. I mean, and we have similar scenes everywhere, right? Like the snow, and how it's like defocusing every once in a while to just signal how strong the storm is, and how it would feel if you would be standing here and actually looking there, right? Like in the snowstorm, and the snowstorm would be like blowing into your face and would cause your eyes to constantly have to like refocus, and the snow is blowing into your eyes, and the wind is drying out your eyes, so you have to blink more often, right? Stuff like that. And yeah, a lot of cool stuff. Okay, let's talk about Ylva and her attitude. First of all, I do hope nothing... Right. I mean, I think Leif is mostly harmless, but I do hope nothing happens between the two of them later. Because, like, we established that very early, where he's like, come on, let me warm you up, and she's like, shut up, you perv. And at the moment, it's not threatening, because we are in an environment where we are, like... Sorry, by the way, if Leif is a real bro and I'm doing him dirty, by the way. I don't know that yet. But, like, if we show something like that, we do it for, in my opinion, like, in my experience in a narrative, we do it for one of two reasons. One is we want to foreshadow something that's going to happen later, right? Which is what I hope is not going to happen. And the second thing is we want to round out the character of Leif here, right? And also characterize Ylva a little bit, right? Ylva being the strong, independent, but also bratty woman that isn't afraid to tell somebody older off, right? But also at the same time, we do have Leif as being shown as the typical bard character, right? Like a sailor, a little bit of mouth on him. He spouts a lot of tales, of which not all of them might be 100% true, right? He is somebody who likes to impress, who has a lot of like that charisma stuff going on, where he's like impressing the kids and whatnot with his crazy adventure stories. And he's out there oftentimes just traveling and shit. But he's also somebody who's a little bit of a perv, right? That can be endearing in some kind of context, right? And he's also somebody who's like a little bit of a comedic character in the sense of like the communally experienced, right? We basically, in the power dynamic here, we show that he's kind of like just making joke advances on Ylva, which is kind of like typical like roleplay bard kind of thing. But also we show at the same time that there's nothing threatening going on, because in the power dynamic here, he's like a friend of the family, and he's just like that weird uncle basically. And she's like established enough as a person, strong enough as an independent character, and like just like also like steadfast enough to not be shaken by that and just be like, shut the fuck up, right? Get your ass out of here, right? Something like that. And that's okay if we use that to characterize both of them, just plainly, right, with that simple interaction, but it can also be in other series, right, or, right, potentially establish something where we put a little seed in the minds of the audience, which is foreshadowing for later developments, where we do see that when Leif is actually not in an environment where Ylva feels herself pretty powerful and safe and secure, that maybe the power dynamic changes and suddenly there is a part of his character that comes out that is actually nasty and abusive and right, that can be the case, right? I don't know Leif enough to actually say anything about that, although the name is saying something to me, so maybe he is a historical figure. So I need to look that up. Maybe he's a historical figure, and that would actually be kind of slander, basically, because everybody's like, oh, actually he was a well-known historical figure and actually a pretty cool dude for his time, basically, and that's so people don't like to put put characters such as this, like so hero characters, famous historical figures that are not plainly villainous, put them into a weird light. So that is obviously the possibility. But yeah, I don't know him, so could be either. Very interesting scene nonetheless. That is a cold gaze if I've ever seen one. But yeah, we are Thorfinn is dreaming. And we have a very, very loving family, but we see stuff is going on, right? We're talking long into the night, so there's shit going on. We are kind of worrying about certain things, right? Maybe exchanging news about the world at large, which Leif might have. I want to also say that I think Thors is somewhat of a good judge of characters so far, so it's possible that... Holy shit, she's hot. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. That kind of distracted me just now. But anyway, that Thors is trusting Leif enough to actually have him around his children. So maybe that should be our signal to be like, yeah, Thors is Leif is cool, right? Like, not necessarily, right? People can be betrayed. People can be like, right, can misjudge other people. But he's kind of the measuring tool we're using here, because we are in the shoes of Thorfinn, who looks up to his father, and what his father says is true, basically. This is his world, basically, his world view as well, right? Whatever his father shows him in terms of values and morals and all of these things, that is true. And he learns that, right? He picks that up as a young child. That is very influential. Looking up to like, it's having somebody to look up to who is a role model for you. Yeah. So Thors is his world, and that is also one of the reasons why I am not really mad about him not understanding that there is dangers and problematic things to adventuring and fighting, and that running away is sometimes the best decision to make. So I think it might be very important that his father shows him this, but I don't know if he will. So we'll see, right? Because that is very important to just explain to him, why did we run away and why was it the right choice to do in this moment? Unless his father maybe doubts that as well. That is obviously also an angle that we can look at. But yeah, he's a child, right? Adventure and fighting and heroic tales, all of that inspires you, obviously, as a young kid. That is cool stuff. And then you grow up and you learn that the world is cruel, that there's a lot of shit happening, that hurting other people isn't great because those other people, right? Like, what if you were that other person, right? Would you want to be hurt like that? Would you want to be oppressed like that, right? And this is why I'm not mad at him or Ylva being dismissive about slaves, because I think Ylva is actually in the privileged situation, right? She's calling her father weird for not wanting to take slaves to help with the whatever, right? And it is an established practice, but it seems to be a practice that is not present in this village, so they have different values. And she doesn't understand that because she grew up in this village, just normal as everybody else, right? And maybe she never experienced slavery, passively or actively, right? Like something like Thors might have experienced that, might have seen prisoners of war, right? Might have seen people who treat their slaves very, very badly, right? Might have experienced it himself, maybe, where he might have been captured in war at some point in time and have to be de facto a slave before being freed, right? All of these things that you can tell from experience when you're an adult, right? Somebody who, I mean, I think she might be 20 at this point in time, right? Not 20, when she was there, maybe she's probably 16 to 18 at this point in time. But yeah, she is a teenager or a young adult. So she's not at the age of Thors, who has lived through a lot of things and maybe also military conflicts, as we've seen in the first scene of the episode. But this is her first experience seeing somebody who is a slave, who has been treated very badly. And we see her reaction to it, symbolizing also a little bit that she didn't imagine slaves being treated that way, right? Very nice shot, by the way, with that. Like, reminds me of Aaron, but also reminds me of like that general motive, right? Dreaming of adventure and freedom outside of your scope of that little village. And oftentimes in these stories, what we experience is that the character is dreaming of these things, and then suddenly things happen that are probably tragic, probably bad, right? And they get the chance to experience that adventure and that like freedom, but it comes with the caveat of a lot of pain and problems and conflict and suffering. And then it gets kind of put into perspective for them what the price was that they had to pay for that. Even though that's not like an established rule of you have to pay for freedom, but it's possible that you have to pay for freedom. It's possible that you have to do something for it. It's possible that the things we wish for happen, but not in the way we really wish for. And then we maybe wish it never happened. And we have the opinion, or we develop the opinion that I would have been fine living in my little world, in my little village, safe and sound, and being surrounded by people that I love, rather than having all of this freedom now, having all of that power now, having these adventures, but having had to leave certain aspects of my former life behind. And that is part of growing up. That is part of growing up for many of us, right? It doesn't matter if it's like in times back 1002 AD, or if it is in the year 2025. Like, we grow up and we learn that there's certain things that happen in life that we don't find great, right? That we have to deal with, that we have to process, that we have to overcome and adapt to, that are not necessarily things that we love or that bring us joy, right? That are potentially things that bring us suffering and pain and sadness. But yeah, this is the foreshadowing, right? We do have the great dream, and oftentimes the blue sky with just like the tiniest little clouds here and there, which are very faint, is the perfect symbolization of that dream of freedom, the dream of adventure, the dream of promise. Because we have a saying in Germany, which goes like, jemanden das Blaue vom Himmel versprechen, which means I'm promising somebody the blue of the sky, which basically is kind of flowery language to say, I don't know if there's like an English equivalent to that saying, but it's like, I'm promising something of a dream, basically, because sky and dream is often very much associated. I'm promising a dream that is so shining and bright and beautiful that it's almost not possible to exist, right? Because there's rain clouds here and there, and they're gonna come, and it's gonna rain at some point in time. Or snow. But yeah, we have that, like, you're a liar, my father would never run away, idolizing his father way beyond of what he actually is, although I'm sure his father is a very honorable person. And Leif actually being a responsible adult and saying, look, war and adventure and all of that, it's not all fine. A lot of people die, right? And I think that is one thing I really respect about him in this situation, where I'm like, yeah, there are people who are just telling you like a lot of like crazy utopian bullshit, and they're not gonna warn you of the self-experienced problems that could potentially come with that. But he is actually being honest in that moment. And that is also something that is very important with children, that not only we inspire them to actually look out and reach for the stars, but also to tell them, be careful, right? There's a caveat to a lot of things. Make sure you're not blindly dreaming. And I think that is an important lesson to learn in many, many areas. But yeah. And here we do have that reaction, right? He's like, oh, that looks like it hurts, right? She never, right? I wonder what happened to him. Probably mistreatment by his masters. One last thing I want to think about, or I want to talk about right after we, like, obviously Norway, that's cool with all the story and whatnot. I do wonder if we're going to see the king or like the descendants of the king or whatever. But that's going to be a very interesting thing and a very important conflict, like running away versus fighting, right? Like the fires of war and what that brings with it. And how do you deal with somebody who is like so powerful that you can, at the moment at least, not do anything against them? Do you seek revolt and conflict, or do you look for better pastures and for another place where you are not being discriminated against, where you're not being oppressed, right? And that is always, like, I guess, the choice between one of two evils, basically. Well, most of the time at least. But yeah, this is almost idyllic here, right? Like, they have relative peace. And obviously there is conflicts. There is conflicts here. This guy at the brink of death, dreaming of like his family that he left behind, and telling a little bit of his story. He probably was a soldier or a simple citizen who got abducted, and all of his family got spread across, like, and sold to all kinds of people, right? So he's dreaming of maybe, in part, rejoining with them in death, because this is the only way he could imagine seeing them ever again. And this guy is like, I don't know what to think of this guy, because he feels like one, like, tough guy who has like a completely wrong and opposite of me idea about what the nature of human beings is. But at the same time, he strikes me as somebody who, for example, who might not betray you in the sense, right? That he's somebody who's like, I'm gonna tell you up front if I hate you, or if I'm gonna attack you, or if I have a problem with you, right? Like something like that. And you might not like what I have to say and have to do and whatnot. You might not like my way of life, but I'm gonna live it, and I'm gonna like put that upon people that are too weak to defend themselves. But I'm not gonna be the person who is like, come on, take my hand. We're gonna fight together and then stab you in the back. At least that's how it feels to me. He's like kind of like that tough guy persona, basically. It's like cruel as well. And more aggressive and more like about corporal punishment. Because we see later on, he's like, I don't care about laws, one of his men, and he's like, you uphold the fucking law, dude. So he tries to rule his people with an iron fist, basically. And that comes down to what he's actually saying, where he's like, people need to be put in chains and the chains of law to actually not become savages, which is one of the views on humanity, basically, right? That you can hold, right? The worldview, like a general idea of what the true nature of humans really is. And I talked about this on the channel a couple of times, but one of them is basically that humans are inherently bad, which is his general worldview. Humans are inherently bad, and you have to discipline and educate the bad out of them in order to make them good. And then there is the view that humans are essentially good, and society corrupts and corrupts them and makes them bad, basically, right? And then you have the in-between, right? The in-between, which is humanity is a blank page, absolutely neutral, and give me any person, and if I have the power to meticulously design how I educate them and bring them up, I can turn them into anything, which is also not completely right. from a psychological viewpoint, there is an argument, or also an educational viewpoint, there is an argument to be made for some of these sides, right? But I personally hold the opinion that the truth is somewhere in between. I do think that humans are mostly determined by their temperament, which is like the general emotional tendencies that they are born with, right? By the capabilities of their brain, which is oftentimes especially delivered via their ability to regulate their own emotions, which has different influential factors, but one of them is genetic. And then by how they are brought up in an environment, right? So there's the interaction between genetics and environment that plays into everything, right? We do have genetics, which are basically defining certain things. Then we have the environment, which is defining certain things, and then we have the interaction of both, right? So my genetics have an effect on my environment, of the people around me, of my society, and then my society reflects back on me, right? Or I'm seeking out certain environments, right? Certain friend groups, certain kind of people, and that environment reflects back on me and has an effect on my genetics, because as we found out within the last couple of decades, factors in the environment can actually have an influence of the expression of our genes, right? It can basically, to simplify it to a very, very simple degree, it can turn some of our genes on and off, basically, right? We have a certain gene that is about producing a certain enzyme that's doing something, and environmental factors can lead to us to that enzyme being produced less out of that genetic code, because it is an adaptation to the environment, basically. And that happens on a mental level as well. So mental trauma, all of this stuff can have an effect on our genes, and our genes can have an effect on the environment, and especially the environment can have a major effect in combination with our genes on the development of our brain as we are children and growing up. So there's a lot to be said, but we are not a blank page, but we are not evil and not good, right? And that is my opinion. And generally, if you have a person who has the tendency to be more violent or maybe mentally ill, you might have to put more effort into bringing them up in a safe and secure and welcoming environment to actually get them to become a healthy human being, but you can do it. And I do think if you have a person who is very resilient, even on a genetic level already, right? So they are very resistant versus bad factors within the environment, you might need less effort to actually get them to be a relatively healthy and like adapted human being. But you can also put enough environmental stress and traumata onto them to actually make them turn into somebody who is absolutely bad or vile or evil or whatever you want to call that. But it's very interesting how people have that differing view on things, right? And how we conceptualize certain moral concepts, because morality is always subjective. It is always dependent on how do we grow up, what do we think is right and wrong, what is our life's experience. And thus, I do not blame Ylva for not understanding how a slave feels, right? And not seeing anything wrong with slavery if she herself has not experienced it in any way and hasn't experienced it passively through getting to know a slave or whatever. I mean, that is one of the factors, one of the things that we see happen a lot when cultures clash, that the people who are native to a country are more and more tolerant of other cultures the more time they spend with them, right? The more they get to know them and the more they humanize them, right? And the less we know them, right, the further away we live from them, the less people of that culture live close to us and interact with us, the less of an image we actually have of those people. So the negative aspects of, right, of like the bad apples of those cultures, they reach the news and they reach us through that, and they are being remembered a lot more because they could be potential threats for us down the line. So what we do is we take in all of these negative aspects, which is a human characteristic, right? The negative attention bias that is like we pay more attention and put more weight into negative stimuli because they could be threatening to us. And so somebody who lives within a very homogenous, so very samey environment with people that are basically from your culture and in the same, like brought up in the same way and whatever, they will find other cultures a lot more threatening than people who spend a lot of time interacting with those other cultures. And it's the same here, right? Like slaves, you have no concept of that if you don't grow up with them. And if Ylva had grown up with, I don't know, like a young boy or whatever, a young girl who was a slave and gotten to know them and maybe become friends with them and whatever and seen their suffering, their plight and whatever, she might have had more like empathy with them from the get-go. But here we do see that she has that basic capacity for empathy, but she still is kind of like trying to do peacemaker here, right? And doesn't quite understand what her father wants to achieve here. For me, this is like a duel of wills, basically, like kind of almost like a I put my ideal forth and you put your ideal forth, and like this guy, he something with H, I forgot his name, he's trying to enforce his ideals onto our community, right? But he puts forth a trade offer and is like, I'm willing to make a sacrifice for this human being because a human life is important to me. So he's like, that's ridiculous. What if I raise the price higher? He's testing his conviction, right? He's testing his ideals, right? Are you willing to make a big sacrifice for what you believe in? Or are you gonna croak and just like give in when the price is too high? And Thors is making his ideal known by being like, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. Obviously, he's profiting from it and he's taking that, right, and exploiting that. But he's also kind of tested his will, and then he was like, okay, you know what, your ideals, right, you are willing to defend them to a degree that I'm not willing to get in to come into conflict with you. And one thing that kind of establishes the power dynamic as well is when Thors actually gets up, right, like to defend this guy, and we see like the broad shoulders taking in all of the screen, and then we turn around and we see he's almost an entire head bigger or taller than all of these people. So there is a power dynamic here. Like, he's a strong dude. He could kill like 5-6 of you before you be able to actually bring him down. So you have to measure how much a conflict with him, and by extension with his people who would defend him as well, would cost. And it wasn't worth it. But obviously Ylva doesn't understand that. But she understands, right? His mother. I don't know what her name is. I didn't pick that up. I'm sure I'm gonna pick that up. Don't know who you are, but I don't like that. He ran away, and he's like... That's what is said, right? Like a story. Then if somebody wants to run away from here, I do assume he means Iceland. Where do they go? And maybe that's this guy. So maybe he's going to Greenland, this guy, or he's going to Vinland, or to Europe, continental Europe, like Norway or whatever. Or maybe he's coming in, and the foreboding thing that is connected to us as like the community in the village is that he is threatening our place here, and now we have to think about where we have to run, or where we want to run away to now that our life here is threatened, or if we want to stand and fight. And maybe the seed that was placed in this first episode was Vinland. But yeah, that's been Vinland Saga, Season 1, Episode 1, a very, very interesting start. I don't think we're going to talk as much in the next episode. I'm just going to let it flow in, because in the first episode there's always a ton to talk about, and then it's like a little bit less here and there, and then like after a vital point in the story there might be more to talk about. Lots of themes that we can open up. I'm very interested to see how this one's gonna turn out to be. But yeah, we still have the ED, right? We're gonna look through the ED quickly. Like a little flower blooming in a home, right? With new beginnings kind of deal, right? Like spring coming, the sun is coming in, the snow is melting. bear a strong, unwavering volition, right? A strong will, right? Stand in for what you believe in, basically, as long as you still show some kindness. So don't be cruel in your ideals. Be kind, right? Be empathetic. All of this ED is very warm. It is very like dreamy and new beginnings, as opposed to the OP, which is conflict and suffering and like, what did I even dream of, right? Like, this is like, the opening is hopelessness, while the ED is paradise, right? It's hopes and dreams, and this is contrasted with one another. A misty moon, and we go into this really cool, like almost manga drawing style of we have Thor standing there, and then it's like it's in a picture book, and then it's like it's being whisked away like it is in the past, and it's lost to us. And then we have our look at Thorfinn, the back of Thorfinn, looking out into the blue yonder, right, dreaming. And then we turn around to his side profile and see a little bit of his shining eyes, as in like motivation, passion, emotion in there. And the bird flies away, almost like we want to travel somewhere far away. Listen to me, sail away again. I pray you light the way through uncharted seas, right? Find a new home. So brave the stormy seas, and we have the northern lights, which I don't know what they represent, but they are something wondrous, something almost magical. So brave the stormy seas. And a little bit we do have the stormy seas, but the interesting thing is here, in contrast to the OP, we have the rain coming in and not the snow, right? But strong rain and winds, and we see him, a little bit older, standing here, bearing a torch, maybe the torch of his father, basically. And we're zooming into him, but the fire of the torch is actually getting stronger and stronger, and it ignites him, it engulfs him, and then it engulfs the entire screen. Face that darkness. So we're facing the darkness with the passion, with the storm, with the passion, with the fire. But the fire could consume us, right? This is what I'm reading here. But at the end of that fire, if it doesn't end up consuming us, is the promised land, right? The beautiful fields of green pastures that are fruitful. And the ending almost seems like the final ending of Attack on Titan. No spoilers for the ending of Attack on Titan, spoilers for the ED of the last part of Attack on Titan, which is like this field of flowers. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna say more about that. Yeah, really cool, really cool. I can't wait to see the next episode. I'm probably gonna wait to release this until I got episode 2 recorded, right? So we'll see how we go. Maybe I'll miss a week or two here and there in releasing them, but I'm gonna try and record them as much as I can and get them out to you. I would think that realistic is at least, you're gonna get a new episode at least every 2 weeks. And once we're kind of in the vibe and everything is going well and I got the time, maybe it'll come every week, basically. Early access on Patreon. 1 week ahead in the beginning, 2 weeks after a while, probably, right? Or not 2 weeks. Let's say 1 episode in the beginning, 2 episodes after a while, but 2 episodes for the second tier, basically, right? The lowest tier is gonna get 1 episode ahead always. And that means if I don't have time and an episode is not coming, that means we're gonna stop the releases on Patreon at the same time as we're stopping the releases on YouTube, which means both is gonna get stalled, and this basic like 1 or 2 episodes ahead thing is gonna stay established, basically. Unless it's taking so long that I'm like, okay, let's release them and then start it back up. But I doubt that will happen. I think Vinland has 24 episodes. I don't know how fast I will be in reacting to them, but we'll see. And we'll get it along. And as Monster's running out, obviously, we don't have to pick up a new series immediately, but can wait, I don't know, a couple of weeks, a month, whatever, to actually see if everything with the series that are currently going on, Girls Last Tour on Patreon and Vinland here and all the other stuff that I'm doing, is going to work out well. And then we're going to ease into the next series after Monster, obviously, as well. But yeah, if you want to stick around to see what's happening, what I'm reacting to, what games I'm playing, and all of that stuff, go check out go check out my Patreon. Go like and subscribe to my like this video, subscribe to my channel, all of that stuff. And I'll see you on the next Vinland episode or any other episode that you choose to watch. See you soon.